Hello! Welcome to another exciting episode of Blues from the Basement. What I wanted to talk about today were a couple of chord ideas you can use in all kinds of blues playing. You can use it in shuffle blues, jump blues, swing blues, works really well, even slow blues, as well as how you can use these chord shapes to create some interesting scale patterns that you might not otherwise come up with. So we're going to do this in the key of E, and the magic chords that I'm going to show you are a 6th chord and a 9 chord. So the 9 chord is very, very popular in blues, and you may already be aware of that chord. If you're not, you definitely should be. Probably the most common chord used in most blues settings. So the way I'm going to show this to you is really cool because we're going to use the exact same shape and move it to create the 6th chord and the 9 chord. So I'm going to start in the key of E on the 4th fret. So we're going to have, from the first string on, it's going to be 4th fret, 5th fret, and 6th fret. This little shape, that's a 6th chord. If we move that chord down 2 frets right here, that's a 9th chord. So you have a 6th chord here at the 4th fret, move it down 2 frets to the 2nd fret, it's a 9th chord. Same exact shape. So that's the first 2 positions we're going to learn that in. Very easy to move between those. So the next one is even easier. We're going to be up at the 9th fret. And that is the 6th chord. And if we move it down 2 frets, we're actually playing a piece of the 9th chord. It comes from this chord. That's the 9th chord most of you probably know. We've all heard that riff before, right? Well, you can do that here too. Slightly different sound to it, but it's basically the same thing. When we play the chord here, starting on the 1st string, we're actually playing the 6th, the major 6th, then the major 3rd, and then the root note, the E. When we move to the 9th chord, we're playing the 5th, the 9th, and the 7th, the dominant 7th. So when we do those chords here, we have, starting at the top, we have the major 3rd, the root note, and then there's the 6th, major 6th. When we go to the 9th chord, we actually have the 9th, the 7th, and the 5th. What's interesting is there's no root note there. That's all right. Chances are someone else in the band is playing the root note, right? And one more I'll show you on the same idea of a shape that you can move to create the 6th and the 9th chord. So we're going to do this all the way up at the 12th fret. On the 1st string, we have 12, 14, 13. That is the 6th chord. And if we drop 2 frets, that's the 9th. So same idea done in 3 different spots. Really convenient, you can use that same shape. The chord in this position starts on the root note. So you have the 1st, then you have the 6th, and then you have the major 3rd. And when you drop it to the 9th, you have the 7th, the 5th, and the 9th. So you can move these to create those. So here's a really cool trick you can use with any of those 6 chords, is if you drop the major 3rd half step and play a minor 3rd, so in this position here, that actually spells out a chord you can use over the 4. That becomes the 7th chord. So if we're in E, there's our E6, and if I go here, that's an A7, right? So perfect chord for the 4 chord. So you can do a rhythm like this. And you've just moved 1 note. Anytime you can find chords where you can change just 1 note, maybe 2, to imply a different chord, say the 4 chord, Those are great tricks. It's very similar to how horn lines are often written, where there are subtle changes that spell out different chords. So triads are a great way to do that. A triad being 3 notes. So that works when we do that to the 6th chord in any of those positions, right? So in this one, we had said the major third was here. So if I drop that to a minor third, we get... And that's spelling out the A7th chord. In fact, you might recognize that shape. So that's an A7. Same thing applies up here. There's the 6th chord, so if we wanted to drop that major third, that's this note, we drop it to this note. And now we've got our 4 chord, so... And the sameness of that, because 2 of those notes are the same, really ties that together and makes it really, really interesting. So the other thing you can do is when you get to the 5 chord is look for a spot where you know the 5 chord in that general vicinity, right? So in the key of E, the 5 chord is a B. So I could play a B7th, which is, this whole chord. But if I play just this piece of it, that triad, it's right in the same vicinity, right? So I can get something like this. Cool little bouncy rhythm. Let's try that same sort of idea, change up a little bit, in this position. So there's my 1 chord, 6 to 9. There's the 4 chord. And then I'll grab a 5 chord in this area. Could do maybe, B7th, but I'm going to choose a B6 because it's a very similar shape. So let's do something like that. Cool. All right, let's do that up in this position. So that's our 1, 6, and 9. And then this would be the 4. So where do I know a 5 chord in this area? Well, there's the B9. So I'm going to take this piece. So I can do something like this. There you go. So if we put all that together, we could get something like this. Fun stuff. So, I mentioned I would talk about how we can use these chord shapes to create interesting little lead lines. So I'm going to start with one that's pretty common. We have the 6th chord here and the 9th chord here. So if we play those notes on each string, so I'm really thinking about the 9 chord, 6 chord, 9 chord, 6 chord, 9 chord, 6 chord. You get some cool little things. You can do that in all those positions. So let's try this one. So if we have, and to do that from the 9 chord to the 6 chord, I'd be taking this note to this note. And then I'd be taking this note to that note. And then this one to that one. Carry that idea down here. So if we had, it would be, and then. Really kind of interesting sounding little phrases that aren't really outside. They just sound a little more exotic, but really, you're just thinking about those chords. So you get some kind of cool ideas, right? Cool things. To get a little more advanced, once you get comfortable with that, you can use that same trick where you lowered the third to play the 4 chord and just change that note if you're soloing over the 4 chord. Something like this. And you can almost hear that 4 chord change there. Same thing here. Cool little tricks. It's all kinds of fun, and I hope you find some interesting things to do with those ideas.